Imagine this. It's a typical Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m., and there you are, sitting cross-legged on the plush carpet of your living room. A bowl of cereal is precariously balanced on your knees as you flick through one of the mere 3 television channels available. Outside, the street lies eerily silent, with nothing but the crisp morning air lingering, waiting for the neighborhood kids to flood it with laughter and games. Without the distraction of screens or apps, your day was centered around outdoor adventures with friends until the evening meal called everyone back home. Growing up in the 1970s was unique, and for those who experienced it, the era is defined by unforgettable moments and experiences. During this period, Britain was a tapestry of memorable events, from the long, blazing summers to unexpected power cuts that plunged households into candlelit evenings. Saturday morning television glued children to their seats while penny sweets were a pocket money delight. These snippets composed the fabric of Britain as it was known and cherished. Consider the infamous summer of 1976, a season that didn't just warm, it scorched the nation into a Mediterranean wonderland. The relentless heat wave persisted for 3 blistering months, with temperatures soaring past 32 degrees Celsius for an unprecedented 15 consecutive days. Lawns transitioned from lush green to a desolate white as they withered and died. The asphalt absorbed so much heat it seemed to shimmer, and tarmac roads began to melt under the sun. Reservoirs dried out, revealing cracked beds, and by July, water scarcity was such that outdoor taps were installed on streets, catering to about 20 houses per tap. Families stood patiently, buckets in hand, queuing to collect precious water for their daily needs. In Wales, taps were hardly functional, turned off for a staggering 17 hours each day. Amid this crisis, Dennis Howell was appointed Minister for Drought, and emergency legislation was swiftly passed. A cheeky campaign slogan emerged, humorously suggesting people save water, bathe with a friend. If that wasn't enough, the summer was also marked by a remarkable influx of ladybirds, about 23 billion of them, blanketing every surface by late July. These tiny creatures filled windowsills, crunched underfoot, and collided with car windscreens. Mixed with green flies, they formed dense swarms, appearing almost impenetrable. For children, though, it was a paradise of endless outdoor fun, splashy paddling pools, and ice lollies that dripped faster than they could be devoured. When September finally broke the heat with rains, they were so heavy they brought floods, but the indelible memories of that dry spell persisted. It was the summer when Britain nearly ran dry. Flashback to January 1974, the electricity flickers weekly once, then twice, before succumbing to darkness. From New Year's Day, commercial electricity was rationed, limiting businesses to just 3 days of operation each week. By 10:30 each night, television signed off, leaving families to light their homes with candles. The miners were striking, coal supplies dwindled, and in the absence of coal, electricity was in jeopardy. Prime Minister Edward Heath's government stood its ground, determined to endure the situation rather than capitulate to demands. But as the lights dimmed, what felt like a crisis to adults transformed into an indoor adventure for children. Candles emerged from storage, casting flickering shadows that danced along the walls, filling homes with the distinct aroma of melted wax mingling with coal smoke. As shops rapidly sold out of commercial candles, some enterprising butchers resorted to crafting makeshift ones from string and rendered animal fat, emitting a pungent odor, yet a necessity in those desperate times. The dim glow illuminated board games. A round of Monopoly became a family highlight under the candlelight. Conversations flourished, filling the void left by silent televisions. Heating was restricted, compelling families to gather together in a single warmed room, huddled under layers of blankets to combat the chill, where seeing your breath indoors became a common marvel. This scenario endured until March, when Harold Wilson's Labour government swung into power, granting miners a substantial 35% pay rise, and just like that, the lights blazed back to life. Yet, the memory of the 3-day week lingered, etched into the minds of those who lived through it. In neighborhoods everywhere, a familiar sound echoed weekly, the clatter of glass bottles and the low grunt of a diesel engine. The pop man was making his round. Imagine a time when the sound of a delivery was more than just a knock at the door. The popman's arrival was an eagerly anticipated event, where the familiar rattle of glass bottles meant more than just beverages. It was a neighborhood gathering. The popman, a friendly face who knew every family by name, brought with him crates of Corona, Tizer, and Alpine, each delivery a personal connection. As he made his rounds, he brought not only fizzy drinks but also a sense of community. These bottles were not the flimsy plastic containers we know today but substantial, weighty glass bottles with metal screw tops. Each had a unique sound, a crisp, satisfying pop that marked the beginning of a treat. Children would dash to the doorstep with a collection of empty bottles in hand, each one representing a deposit paid back in pence. They would trade them for varieties like brown dandelion and burdock or the crystal-clear cream soda. The choices for refills seemed endless, from the vibrant hue of Cherryade to the bright, effervescent orange of Tizer. Picking up those bottles was a serious task, carefully cradling them to avoid any untimely accidents. At home, these drinks were cherished. A bottle wasn't just for quenching thirst, it was reserved for special moments, perhaps a glass with Sunday dinner or a bottle divided amongst siblings, every drop savored. Nothing was wasted, and each sip was appreciated. The pop man was more than a deliverman. He was a part of the fabric of the street, sharing friendly weather forecasts and knowing which families might need a few extra bottles for upcoming parties. His presence and small gestures fostered a sense of belonging and warmth that lingered long after the bottles were emptied and returned. Then came the era of plastic bottles and the convenience of supermarket shelves, and with it, the end of the popman's routine visits. The community connection dwindled as these once familiar deliveries ceased. Yet, for those who experienced it, the memory of that sharp pop and the unique, nostalgic flavors remains vivid. Meanwhile, public service announcements played on TV, carrying warnings more sinister than any fable could offer. The haunting voice of Donald Pleasance filled the airwaves, a spectral figure beside dark waters, the embodiment of cautionary tales. These films weren't gentle reminders. They were intense, gripping encounters intended to scare sense into viewers, leaving an indelible impression designed to keep you cautious and aware. The spirit of dark and lonely water loomed ominously over childhood memories, vividly portraying the haunting tales of kids meeting tragic fates in seemingly innocent ponds. Its chilling portrayal left an indelible mark, images of what could go wrong etched firmly into young minds. The haunting narrative continued with gripping footage of kids defying death near electrical substations, climbing fences that bordered lethal equipment, only to face horrifying consequences as they met with fiery ends. Rail tracks, towering pylons, and treacherous building sites were arenas illustrating the worst outcomes imaginable, where innocent explorations could lead to devastating results. Such vivid illustrations served as powerful deterrents. A generation learned to steer clear of ominous-looking substations and developed an increased sense of caution when crossing roads, ingraining safety behaviors into their very routine, effectively bolstered by the anxiety-inducing visuals that, though unnerving, were life-preserving. It was a set of lessons wrapped in fearful packaging. Nightmares, yes, but preventative ones. Fast forward to a Saturday afternoon, you find yourself thrust back into familiar surroundings as you enter through the glass doors of Woolworths. The atmosphere is alive with anticipation and the bliss of indulgence stretching out before you, taking form at the legendary pick-and-mix counter. An array of clear bins awaited, overflowing with pink shrimps, flying saucers, cola bottles, and chocolate limes, each promising a sugar-laced thrill as your pocket money jangles promisingly in your pocket. Ritualistically, you'd reach for a crisp, white paper bag, handling it with a reverence usually reserved for treasures. Meticulously, you'd select one of these, two of those, as you made deliberate progress along the counter, all under the watchful eye of the weighing scales, where each gram ticked the total incrementally higher. The lure of slipping an extra piece in for good measure was a constant. An unspoken rule was that everyone succumbed to it. The staff, seasoned in the ways of childhood whims, often turned a blind eye. When, sadly, Woolworths closed its doors for good in 2008, it wasn't just a storefront that vanished, it was the slow fade of an era, a piece of collective nostalgia lost to time. It was as though the closure marked the end of chapters filled with innocent mischief and childhood wonder. Then there were clackers, the simple yet perilous plastic balls tethered by string, whose powerful allure seized children's imaginations and competitive spirits alike. The playground craze reached feverish heights as children swung them with all their might, the deafening clack, clack, clack serving as the soundtrack to many days. But despite the auditory thrill, the danger was palpable. Plastic smashing into plastic often led to shattering fragments, catching hands in the process and converting soft skin to a canvas for vibrant bruises. Caution was eventually enforced as schools banned them, and parents, recognizing the hazards, confiscated them. Yet even as they disappeared from sight, the memory of that one resplendent summer when every playground resonated with their chaotic rhythm remained indelibly etched in memory. Saturday mornings came alive with a choice that defined many childhoods. Would it be the more relaxed charm of BBC One's Swap Shop with Noel Edmonds and the whimsical exchanges facilitated by Keith Chegwin's Swaporama, where the swap board displayed lists of eagerly anticipated wants? Or would it be the burst of chaos found in ITV's Teaswers, a show steeped in anarchy with Chris Tarrant and Sally James at the helm, featuring custard pie throwing, splashes of water, and the infamous phantom flanflinger wreaking havoc. The lack of remote controls in households meant a decision had to be made. Pick a channel, a side in essence, as there was simply one television set. Swap Shop appealed to the orderly, while Teasers captured the spirit of rebellion, sparking vibrant debates amongst peers and even minor familial divides. But without fail, every child found themselves glued to one or the other. Saturday morning TV was more than a show, it was a cultural phenomenon. In the classroom, a common trifecta of sights, sounds, and smells would encapsulate the experience of receiving freshly printed worksheets. The purple ink, still wet to the touch, combined with the intoxicating scent of methylated spirits from the duplicator, a sweet, chemical fragrance both strange and oddly nostalgic. Instinctively, every child would raise the sheet to their nose, inhaling deeply, a sensory trigger that could instantly transport them back to wistful memories of childhood years spent sniffing maths worksheets. Even playtime bore its own set of distinctive rituals. Set upon the uneven surface of the green felt pitch, Subbuteo, a game with immense allure, invited players into a miniature world of football. Tiny plastic men perched on neat, weighted bases, propelled not by human limbs but by the flick of a fingertip, tackled a disproportionately large ball in a game of balance and precision. Yet the joy encountered a common fragility. Should you carelessly tread upon your striker barefoot, the snap of plastic would reverberate through your heart. However, Subbuteo extended beyond casual play. It was a realm to be conquered, a universe all its own. And then, as Sunday's gentle weariness crept in, your father might declare it time for just one pint, a short respite from the week's demands. But with strict pub regulations barring children, you'd find yourself nestled amongst the confines of a Morris Marina's backseat. Left to entertain yourself in the car park while the adults conversed inside, an ordinary occurrence of the era, when space became a frontier of imagination in itself. A packet of crisps, famously featuring that little blue bag of salt, and a bottle of fizzy lemonade. Those were the essentials you clutched as you sat and waited, the anticipation tingling in the air. The first hour of waiting was manageable, even if the imagined fun hadn't quite matched reality yet. But as the second hour limped along, the excitement drained away, leaving a dull throb of boredom. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, your parents emerged from where they'd been, reeking of the unmistakable sense of beer and smoke. Their faces were lit with a relaxed cheerfulness, a stark contrast to the mind-numbing tedium you had endured. In the realm of play, girls clutched their Cindy dolls, while boys brandished their Action Man figures. Cindy, with her collection of chic outfits, was a fashionista in the hands of enthusiastic young stylists, until the inevitable happened. Boredom claimed another victim, and the scissors came out, leaving Cindy with an unintended, often disastrous new-do. Meanwhile, Action Man, with his firm-gripping plastic hands and eyes that would eerily swivel with a twist of the knob on his head, suffered his own indignities. His patches of fuzzy hair, initially such a rugged feature, invariably thinned out and vanished. He came equipped with an array of uniforms and weapons, ready for action-packed adventures or imaginative battles. Yet, every boy faced the grim fate of an Action Man with bald spots, while each girl confronted a Cindy with a botched haircut. These figures weren't merely toys. They were miniature icons of adventure and glamour, integral to the tapestry of childhood. Then, there were the gadgets, tiny marvels that seemed pulled straight from the pages of science fiction. One such device, famously advertised by Rolf Harris, was a pocket-sized electronic organ that captured children's imaginations with its futuristic allure. It came with a metal stylus designed to interact with a printed circuit board, producing tinny, buzzing notes wherever it touched. It appeared magnificent, like a relic from the future, and every child clamored to possess one. The excitement reached a crescendo when they finally got their hands on it, only for reality to set in. Despite its dazzling promise, the gadget proved to be almost impossibly difficult to play, deflating their high hopes with an uncooperative, unmusical hum. Picture this, spending countless hours in your room, endlessly crafting bizarre electronic sounds that echo through the house, slowly driving your parents up the wall until the inevitable moment when your gizmo's batteries finally give out. That's childhood, right? Imagine strutting around in flares so wide they could almost double as street sweepers, paired with platform shoes that magically grant you an extra 3 inches of height. Let's not forget the infamous tank tops, scratchy as ever, handmade with love by Nan. Browns, oranges, and those unforgettable mustard yellows, dominating the wardrobes of kids everywhere. It was all the rage to wear them to school discos, maintaining a facade of enjoyment while secretly wishing for something, anything, else. In the realm of 70s fashion, restraint was a foreign concept. Now, conjuring up a different memory, think of a giant inflatable ball, adorned with a ridiculously cheerful kangaroo face and handles for grip. The smell of heavy rubber would greet you first as you prepared to inflate it. Once on, the bouncing escapades would begin. Each bounce was a thrill, though steering was highly unpredictable. With intentions aimed at landing on the soft lawn, you'd undoubtedly find yourself tangled in the hedge. Oh, the heartache of every new puncture. Yet, in the fleeting moments before the inevitable pop, it was pure magic. The whole neighborhood was in on it, filling the summer air with laughter. Though sometimes tears followed dramatic tumbles, it was worth every jump. Saturday mornings meant comics. Boys eagerly grabbed copies of Beano or Dandy, filled with the antics of Dennis the Menace and the Bash Street Kids. Trading comic issues at school was practically a currency of its own. Meanwhile, girls dove into Jackie magazine, with problem pages hosted by Kathy and Claire, dreamy posters of David Cassidy gracing their walls, and plenty of fashion advice to boot. Boys might have sneered, but every girl soaked up Jackie's words like it was a source of wisdom. Secretly, everyone peeked inside. Fast forward to 1977. Britain was in party mode, celebrating 25 years of the Queen's reign with the kind of festivity unseen since VE Day. Streets transformed, with long tables stretching as far as the eye could see, festooned with bunting in red, white, and blue. Cardboard crowns rested atop heads, while tables groaned under classic spreads, spam sandwiches, sausage rolls, crisps, jellies, and of course, cake. Sitting in the middle of these bustling gatherings, you were surrounded by a sea of neighbors and endless chatter. Commemorative mugs were handed out like treasure, marking the day you'd remember for years to come. Homes had signature scents, Dad's Brut aftershave, an aromatic force from the iconic green bottle endorsed by boxer Henry Cooper, and Mum's Charlie perfume, reminiscent of a commercial's confident woman striding through a cityscape. Either scent could whisk you back in time. These were quintessential olfactory snapshots of the 70s. While the decade had its share of imperfections, power cuts, strikes,